All right, let's just jump right into today's explainer. We are going to uncover the pretty shocking truth behind a mathematically predicted doomsday that at one point absolutely terrified the scientific community. Now, we've always been a little obsessed with the end of the world, right? But usually those predictions come from ancient calendars or, mystics. But today we're looking at a prediction that came from the absolute cutting edge of science.
So mark your calendars, Friday, November 13th, 2026. Yep, a Friday the 13th. Over 60 years ago, a team of incredibly well-respected researchers ran the numbers and calculated that human civilization would hit a catastrophic breaking point on this exact autumn day. The fact that it's so unbelievably specific, literally down to the day of the week, is exactly what made it so captivating and honestly so chilling when it was first announced.
But you might be wondering, why on earth did scientists predict a doomsday in the first place? What were they seeing that the rest of us totally missed? Well, this wasn't some Hollywood disaster movie scenario. They weren't predicting an asteroid impact or a nuclear holocaust or some rogue virus. This was based entirely on cold, hard calculus, proposing an impossible, uncontrollable population explosion that would just completely snap the limits of our planet.
Let's dive right into the math of infinite humans, specifically looking at physicist Heinz von Foerster's famous 1960 study.
In November of 1960, the prestigious journal Science published a study by von Foerster and his colleagues. They had analyzed 2,000 years of historical population data, and the secret they uncovered was this concept called hyperbolic growth. You see, older models just assumed steady exponential growth, right? Just a consistent percentage increase. But von Foerster's data revealed something way more aggressive. Humanity wasn't just multiplying, our rate of growth was accelerating. Better agriculture, medical breakthroughs, they meant every single generation replaced itself faster than the last one did. So the trend line didn't just slope upward, it went straight vertical, creating this mathematical singularity where our population literally approached infinity.
Now, the researchers obviously knew we wouldn't literally reach an infinite population of trillions overnight on a random Friday afternoon, but they used this incredibly dark, iconic warning. Our grandchildren will not starve, they will be crushed. It was a brilliant mathematical reductio ad absurdum. They were trying to warn policymakers that physical space and environmental pressure would impose these hard, unavoidable limits long before our food supply ever ran out.
Just consider this terrifying little paradox for a second. Step 1. Let's say technology completely solves food scarcity. Nobody goes hungry. Well, step 2. The population just keeps accelerating completely unchecked. Step 3. We literally run out of physical standing room on Earth. And then, step 4. The math says we are squeezed to infinity by 2026. The whole point was that even without famine, the sheer lack of physical space from all this underdressed growth would eventually cause society to collapse.
But then we get the demographic plot twist, which explains exactly why this terrifying prediction completely broke down.
When the paper was first published, the math flawlessly matched historical trends. But models depend on past trends continuing, right? Well, shortly after the 1960s, global population growth hit its peak of about 2.1% per year. And then something totally unprecedented happened. The curve just broke. For 2 millennia, we had slow, steady growth, high birth rates offset by high mortality. Then, from 1900 to 1960, medical breakthroughs triggered that terrifying hyperbolic acceleration. But from 1970 onward, a steady deceleration. We moved straight out of hyperacceleration and into an entirely new era, heading toward a projected population peak in the 2080s.
So why did that rock-solid equation fail? Simply put, it couldn't predict human adaptability. It totally missed the global demographic transition. We're talking about 4 monumental socioeconomic shifts that totally changed how we build families. First, rising literacy and education, particularly for women, naturally caused birth rates to drop. Then, urbanization. Think about it. On a farm, kids are free labor, but in a city, they are a massive economic cost. Combine all that with modern healthcare, family planning, and just generally higher standards of living, and human behavior basically hijacked the mathematical model.
Because of all those incredible societal leaps, the global average of births per woman plummeted. We went from around 5.0 in the 1960s to under 2.3 today. I mean, that is just an astonishing behavioral shift in only a few generations. At 2.3, we are flirting right with the global replacement level of 2.1. We slam the brakes on hyperbolic growth, not through some apocalyptic disaster, but through actual human development.
So, let's talk about our true population future and how humanity ended up defusing the doomsday clock.
Seeing our current reality compared to those panicked 1960 projections is just fascinating.
The 1960 model predicted this insane hyperbolic singularity, a vertical line of doom hitting infinity in 2026. But actual, modern UN demographics show something completely different, a manageable, bell-shaped curve heading toward a gradual decline. The terrifying vertical spike was completely smoothed out by human progress.
According to the UN today, humanity is actually on track to hit a peak population of approximately 10.3 billion people, right around the mid-2080s. And after we hit that peak, the global population is expected to begin a slow, managed decline as we head into the 22nd century.
So the crucial takeaway here is that the entire narrative has completely flipped. Instead of facing this apocalyptic overpopulation crisis, we are literally entering the era of underpopulation. Actually, a lot of nations right now, especially in Europe and East Asia, are scrambling to figure out how to prepare for shrinking birth rates and rapidly aging labor forces. It's just a completely different set of challenges than von Foerster ever predicted.
Which brings us to the equation's real lesson. Models are maps. They are absolutely not destinations.
When Friday, November 13th, 2026 finally arrives, it's just going to be a normal day. Traffic will still crawl, people will still go to work. But that date is such a powerful testament to how predictive science actually works. Deterministic models project where our momentum is taking us if we change absolutely nothing. They are meant to sound the alarm so we can steer away from the cliff. And honestly, it worked. That 1960 paper sparked decades of vital public conversation about sustainability. We didn't avoid catastrophe by sheer luck. We avoided it through millions of individual choices, cultural shifts, and changing our policies.
Heinz von Foerster gave us an impossible date to force a totally necessary conversation, and I think that leaves us with such a thrilling realization. If human choices seamlessly rewrote the Doomsday math of 1960, what impossible futures are we rewriting today? Whether we're talking about climate models, economic forecasts, or the next big tech wave, just remember, our future is never written in stone, and it's definitely not bound by an equation. We are always the ultimate variable.